You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. One thing we've seen quite a bit is this intra-conference transferring, a lot of SEC to SEC movement. So far, 5 of LSU's 7 commitments as of right now are from SEC schools. And among them is their quarterback commitment. He's not a commitment anymore. He signed. LSU's made it official. He is signed. Michael Van Buren. So I'm going to tell you about Michael Van Buren, what I think his 25 role is, 26 role, future, how it all impacts Colin Hurley. I'm going to get to all that in just a second. But I want to remind you, Bryce Underwood flipped from LSU on a Thursday, the Thursday before the Vanderbilt game. And we all had the reaction that we did. It was jarring when it happened, but it happened. LSU beats Vanderbilt that Saturday, and then on Monday, Brian Kelly's at his press conference, meeting with reporters, and while he was not able to talk specifically about a player, right, because Underwood hadn't signed anywhere yet, and coaches can't talk about recruits until they sign, he was asked if they still planned on taking a quarterback in this class. And here's what Brian Kelly said.
Yeah, I think we'll always look at taking a quarterback each year, and we'll most likely take a quarterback again this year. We look at the calendar year a little bit differently than just December. You know, we have a February signing period. We have a transfer portal. So we'll continue to look at that and see how that best fits our roster. But I can tell you this, that the overall roster is much more important than one particular position. As much as we want to take a quarterback at this position, I think what's more important is the overall health of the roster. And so if it ends up being that we do take a quarterback, that's great, but I think our eye is on the strength of the entire roster.
Okay, a few things that he said there. He told you they plan on taking a quarterback, right? And he also talked about the calendar year and not just thinking of it in terms of the calendar year 2024. He told you, look, you had the December signing period. You had a December portal window. You had a February signing period. You had a spring portal window. I'll remind you, Joe Burrow joined LSU after spring football in 2018. So the idea is always that they were going to add a quarterback. They just didn't know when. At that point, it was still very sudden. I mean, you had Bryce Underwood committed for a year. I mean, he was your guy, and then very suddenly he's gone. And so there was Bryce Baker, who was the commitment at North Carolina, when Mac Brown got fired, he decommitted from North Carolina. LSU and Penn State were in the mix there. They hired Belichick. He ultimately sticks with North Carolina. Okay, so it was just going to be a process of seeing what was available to you, but the plan was always that they were going to take a quarterback, and it's 100% the right decision. You must take a quarterback every year. You've got to have 4 scholarship quarterbacks every year. You can't leave yourself vulnerable, especially when the rules allow for you to better your roster. In this climate, as the rules stand, it's effectively as if every player can test free agency every year. There's unlimited transfers, and there's money flowing freely. So every year, a player can go test the market. They can go test free agency if they want. So you can't marry yourself, just be pot committed to one player at a position, because that guy could be gone in a year. It's the old adage. Mike D was here with us for 10 years, talked to Mike Detillier every Thursday. And one of his favorite sayings he said all the time, in the NFL, you're never staying the same. You're always getting better or getting worse. You are never staying the same. And you have to look at building a college football roster the same way now. Because if you're not, somebody else is. And you had to add a quarterback. So I know one of the most common question I've been asked about LSU adding Michael Van Buren is, what does that mean for Colin Hurley? And as crass as this is going to sound, it doesn't matter what it means for Colin Hurley. Now, I'll talk about that because it's a relevant part of the conversation. But for 2025, Michael Van Buren makes you a better team in 2025. What about, it doesn't, You cross that bridge down the road when you get there. For 2025, you are a better team with Michael Van Buren on your roster. Let me tell you about him real quick. Then I'll answer that question as to why. So Van Buren in the composite was a 4-star. He's a 4-star assigned with Mississippi State. And remember, Jeff Lebby is an offensive guru. Lebby was the OC at Ole Miss, OC at Oklahoma, when they won 10 games with Dylan Gabriel. He gets the head coaching job at Mississippi State. They were really bad this year. They went winless in conference play. Lost at home to Toledo. Got housed at home by Toledo. But remember, they had brought in Blake Shapen, who we got to talk to incidentally at Media Days. Blake Shapen was the Baylor starter who was the starting quarterback when Baylor won the Big 12 with Dave Aranda. Remember that? So Blake Shapen was the starter. Van Buren was the freshman who come in, was the backup. Shapen gets injured. Well, Van Buren ends up playing in 9 games and starting 7 of them. So as a true freshman in the SEC, he started 7 games, threw for just under 2,000 yards and 11 touchdowns, ran for 5 more touchdowns. Now, he did have 7 interceptions, and that's a problem. You got to cut that down. But you're talking about a guy who got invaluable experience this year in the SEC. Only one of the games he played was a non-conference game against UMass. Every other game he played was a conference game in the SEC. So you have a guy here who was highly regarded as a prospect, has a year of experience in the SEC and playing in the conference, and is a high ceiling guy. Talent, athleticism, all that stuff. So knowing that, let's go back to the point about Van Buren making you a better team in 2025. Let's say, hypothetically, knock on Formica, but you're playing Clemson on the road in the opener in 2025 and Nussmeier turns his ankle. Who do you want to go in the game? A.J. Swan? We just saw that against Oklahoma. How did that look? Not say he can't get better, but A.J. Swan, Colin Hurley, who I guess at that time will have turned 18, but has not taken a snap, or Michael Van Buren, a guy that started 7 games and threw for nearly 2,000 yards this season as a freshman. Who would you rather run out there and lead your offense for a drive, a series, a half, whatever it is? Pretty easy answer, isn't it? When you frame it that way, you are a better team in 2025 with Michael Van Buren as your backup quarterback. It's Garrett Nussmeier's team. He's not coming in to compete. But it's another part of this conversation that makes it really interesting. He's coming here knowing Garrett Nussmeier is here. So he's coming to Baton Rouge knowing he's the number 2, at best, the number 2. But is willing to sit and wait and be Garrett Nussmeier's backup and then compete for the job, in theory, in 2026. I like that a lot. Come get your feet planted. Get ingrained in the culture. Learn the system. Learn the coaches. Learn the players. Learn the expectations. Grow, develop another year, physically, mentally, emotionally, all of it. And then in 26, compete to be the starter. Or he transfers before 2026 because he can. And maybe Colin Hurley will too. Or maybe Colin Hurley transfers in the spring. Or maybe he transfers tomorrow. Or maybe Colin Hurley stays at LSU, becomes a 3-year starter, and wins a Heisman. I don't know. But you've got to view this through the lens of understanding it's not like it was. And not just that guys don't stay. Guys don't stay year to year anymore. And that's okay. The system allows for it. And just like I'm okay with players using that system to their benefit to maximize value, playing time, everything, it's fine. But the flip side of that is also true. I'm good with the school, the football program, using that system to make its team better year after year after year, however they can. You're never staying the same. You're getting better or you're getting worse. So get better. Because I'll tell you this point blank today. Garrett Nussmeier, done after 2025. I don't care if Van Buren and Colin Hurley both stay. You should still go into the portal next year and find a starting quarterback in the portal. Because why not? Go find someone that might be better than the guys you have. It ain't about loyalty. It's about winning. How do you do that? Go find better players. And maybe the guy on your roster is the answer. It was with Nussmeier. And maybe it will be with Van Buren and Hurley or Hurley. And maybe not. But you cross that bridge when you get there. You add Michael Van Buren because he makes you a better team in 2025. Now, as for Colin Hurley, I've been asked a ton about Hurley, projectability, people sort of aghast. I want to remind you, this is one of the things I hate about reclassifying. Colin Hurley showed up on campus last spring as a 16-year-old. You don't have to have played college football or know anything about it. You just have to be a human that was 16 at one point. Are you a human that was 16 at one point? So if you're younger than 16, you won't get this. But if you're a human being listening to me, I don't care if you're a male, a female, if you're young or old, what country you were born in, it don't matter. If you were at one point in your life 16 years old and you were older than that now, you'll understand what I'm about to say. Think about your physical maturation from 16 to 17 to 18 to 19 to 20 to 20. You get my point here? I'm not telling you Colin Hurley's never going to be great. I'm just telling you today, he ain't great. And if you're sitting there pounding the table going, Colin Hurley is great, you ain't seen Colin Hurley play. The only time I'm talking to you, unless if you're a rich booster who got to go to a scrimmage or a media member who got to see fall camp and stuff like that, the only thing you have seen of Colin Hurley in an LSU uniform is a few series he got last year in the spring game. Or if you go to Tiger Stadium early enough to watch warm-ups. That's the only thing you have seen. You know who sees him every day? The coaches. And they know he has a long way to go. And that's okay. You develop from 16 to 17 to 18 to 19. So let him grow and develop. Let him get better. Let him improve. And when he's ready, let him go compete for it. That ain't today. And it ain't going to be in 2025. Maybe it will be in 2026. Maybe it'll be with LSU. Maybe it'll be somewhere else. I don't know. But what I do know is that regardless of what adding Michael Van Buren to your roster means for Colin Hurley in 26 or beyond, adding Michael Van Buren makes you a better team in 2025. And that is the singular objective year to year in the portal era. How do you make your team better immediately? Worry about the future when the future comes. How do I make my team better today? Michael Van Buren makes you better today. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.